And welcome to NBC News Daily, everybody. I'm Aaron Gilchrist.
Glad to have you with us. I'm Vicki Wynn.
I'm Kate Snow in Monterey Park, California, where we have just learned, unfortunately, an 11th person has succumbed to their injuries, died in the mass shooting that has rocked this community. A gunman opened fire on a crowded dance hall late Saturday, filled with people dancing to celebrate the Lunar New Year.
I think that people are in shock. They're in disbelief that something like this would happen here.
This community is home to one of the largest Asian American populations in the whole country. And today, we're starting to learn more about the people who were killed here. Among the victims, 63-year-old Lillian Lee, 65-year-old Mai Nan. In a statement, her family said, "We're starting the Lunar New Year broken. We never imagined her life and so suddenly." The suspect has been identified as a 72-year-old. His name, Hu Can Tran. After a 12-hour-long manhunt, police tracked his white van to a parking lot about 30 miles from here, where investigators say he shot himself to death. The Star Ballroom behind me was not the only target. After the shooting here, the suspect headed to another ballroom about 2 miles from here, where he tried to walk in with a gun. The person at the front desk tackled and disarmed him. Here's what that person told ABC News earlier today.
I realized I needed to get the weapon away from him. I needed to take this weapon, disarm him, or else everybody would have died.
NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson joins me now. He is also in Monterey Park, California. Steve, loved ones really still trying to process all of this tragedy. What are we learning about the victims, those we've just learned the names of?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it is that unfortunate breaking news that you've just reported. We're getting this from LA County, County USC. They have treated 4 of the patients. 1, as you mentioned, just unfortunately died. They're also reporting that 2 are now recovering, and there's 1 additional victim in serious condition. But obviously, we're learning more about the victims, the tragedy that happened inside this ballroom. We're learning about the age range. I think one of the most striking things when you hear it, 50 to 70 years old, and now 1 additional victim on top of that. Thankfully, 3 we know have fully recovered as well from the 10 that we heard were wounded in the first place. And the coroner starting to report some of the names to the family members, confirming to those families that they have deceased, including, as you mentioned, Lillian Lee and Mai Nan included among the victims. But just another horrific day of news that we're getting about 1 additional victim, the latest breaking news, Kate.
Yeah, it just gets worse. Steve, the ex-wife of the alleged shooter spoke to CNN, and she said that her ex-husband met her here at the Star Ballroom decades ago. She said he was quick to anger. Are you hearing about the possibility that this might have been a personal attack?
You know, I think when investigators are looking at the age and the fact that this was a person that was known to the community, the 72-year-old meeting his ex-wife, as you mentioned, about 20 years ago at this ballroom, was a part-time instructor, frequented. We don't know how many times in the past few years, but we do know that, back in the day, he was a regular at this ballroom and gave part-time instruction, including to his wife, to some of the people here. We're hearing there maybe wasn't a history of domestic violence, but that he did have a quick temper, especially with his ex-wife. They divorced, of course, in about 2005. We know investigators now serving search warrants at his home in Hemet, California, and all of that part of the investigation, including the weapon that was recovered, a semi-automatic assault-style pistol with an extended magazine, illegal in California, used to trace to his location. So all of that, of course, part of the investigation, but the detail about the personal connection, not only to here, but also possibly to that ballroom in Alhambra, all part of something that investigators are really focused on. Judy Chu, representative in this area, spoke more about that. I want you to listen to what she said, just about the details that we're learning. Listen to this.
This gentleman was a part-time dance instructor. He somehow had some kind of relationship with the people inside the Star Dance Studio, and probably with the Lai Dance Studio as well.
So, of course, the connection to the community, that is clear, but investigators are also quick to point out that despite his age, despite that connection, they are not ruling out the possibility that this is a hate crime. All too early to tell at this point as they continue to hunt for a motive. Kate?
Steve Patterson, thank you for being here. The mayor earlier today of Monterey Park telling me they're going to have a candlelight vigil here tonight. That's in the plans. That's the latest from here. Aaron and Vicki, in about 20 minutes, we'll hear more from folks in this community about how they're trying to process this weekend's tragedy.
Kate, so much shock, grief, and frankly, anger at this point about this shooting. 11 people dead. Thank you for your reporting, Kate. We'll come back to you a little later in this hour.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.